Excellent. So this is the NEMSIS version 3 implementation call, April 10th, 2019. I'm Julianne from the NEMSIS Technical Assistance Center, and we want to welcome you on this conversation. Please mute your phone until you're ready to talk. Feel free to use the chat feature on your Zoom conference call. And this is a participatory conversation, so feel free to contribute or ask questions. A recording will be available for your reference on the NEMSIS YouTube channel after we are done with this. So welcome, everyone. We're going to go ahead and jump right in with annual compliance recertification, and that is Laurel. Laurel, do you want to take it away?
Yeah, sure thing. So I don't need to share my screen quite yet, but I will in a minute for the next item. For this one, I just kind of wanted to open up a conversation for for everyone on the call. So as we start thinking about what we're going to do for compliance in the 3.5 version, we've tossed around the idea of asking people to recertify their compliance maybe annually or with a major version of their product or on some other interval to avoid some problems we've seen where people get their compliance and then a number of years go by and their software inevitably has changed in some way, as software tends to do. And we wanted to sort of solicit some feedback and see what all of you thought of the idea of maybe asking for an annual recertification for compliance for the 3.5 version. Okay, I kind of expected to hear more feedback on that one. Well, if no one has any serious objections, we'll probably move forward with that. And there will be some sort of annual retest that will need to take place to ensure that software continues to be compliant with the NEMSIS standard and continues to do all those things that make it easy for everyone to work together as a community. So we haven't really explored what the retest would look like. I imagine it would be a lot like what we currently do. So if we have someone who is compliant on version 3.3.4 and they want to apply for 3.4.0 compliance, what we currently do is we only make them go through a small subset of the testing process. So I imagine it would be similar. It would only be a small subset of the testing process, something like, here's a test case, enter it and send it to us, and then we check it and see how it looked. Or, hey, can you show us your software for 5 minutes and just walk us through where all the fields are? I mean, something that would hopefully have a low overhead time cost to all the parties involved. See, I'm not sure. The question in the chat is, would there be a retest required if there have been no major changes in the last year? So we're not sure about that. That's part of why we wanted to open up a conversation here. Is a year too frequently to ask that people recertify their compliance? The problem with just asking that we only do a recertification on a major version of software is if we have someone who is maybe problematic, they will just never do a major version of their software. So then they would never be required to retest. We get questions occasionally about the software testing page on the website where someone will say, well, this software was compliant on version 6, now they're on version 10. What does that mean? And the answer that we have is they were compliant on version 6. We assume version 10 is still compliant. We have not checked. So we're sort of trying to have better answers to those questions.
Yeah, Laurel, this is Clay. Just maybe an additional comment related to this. We would probably make some changes to our page on the website that could indicate when folks retested, so that your customers could look at that. And then I think the other idea would always be that with this process in place, if a vendor was to go through what they considered a change where it might be important to retest, they wouldn't have to wait till a year had passed. They could clearly go through this truncated process at any time, and we could update the website with their current status.
Hey, and Julie, this is Doug Fuller in Nebraska. I told you I couldn't keep my mouth shut very long, Julianne. Sorry. But I guess I have two sides. From a state's perspective, I think it's a great idea. From the state's perspective that has a very busy vendor who is always doing something to make their product better, staying, I'm sure, within version, I think that would get awfully cumbersome of, whether it's monthly or every other month or whatever it might be, whatever that would take. Nor can I speak for them, but I think there has to be some more discussion and broader discussion about all those types of things.
Yeah, Doug, this is Clay. That's a really good thought. Yeah, we do have software in this industry that come up with revisions quickly, right? So they revise a lot. So I think the idea here is, and we welcome having further thought, but I think the idea would be here that there would at least be an annual retest. But you're right, if software vendors could go through it more often, and it wouldn't necessarily be related to a versioning. As Laurel so well described, it's really hard for us to tell when there's been a potential revision change that really does necessitate a retest of the NEMSIS standard. So clearly, I think the best we can do is require at least an annual. But yeah, would welcome more thought on that.
Another point is here at the TAC, we probably wouldn't, at least initially, have the bandwidth to perform any sort of retesting more frequently than annually. There are quite a number of vendors that are compliant right now, and it would be just too much to ask if we had to retest people more often than annually, I think. And the goal of this is not to place this really cumbersome burden on everyone. It would just be to ensure that things stay compliant. My vision would be probably a couple of test cases and a visual check of the software to see that all the fields are there that need to be. Nothing that should be so long or drawn out as maybe the initial process. But I'm definitely open to suggestions.
This is Samantha with ESO, and I would think if we're doing recertification on every new version of NEMSIS that comes out, so we'll be doing a certification again on 3.5, and if that time frame is roughly every 4 years, and if we do one maybe halfway in between, that should help the issue of going too long without certification information. But it wouldn't be as cumbersome, I should say, as every year.
That's a good idea. So if we do stay, 4 years between versions, that halfway through point might be a good happy medium.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking if the software hasn't changed in a year, then we certainly don't need to require a retest. If I can see that the records that are arriving at the TAC have the same version date as the records that as the version that you tested a year ago, I'm not going to say, all right, let's go through this process, because if the software hasn't changed, software hasn't changed.
Yeah, this is Clay. I'll just kind of speak up here too. I think that's a good idea, Samantha, that the revision cycle is right now at about 5 years, and so it would just be 2.5 years. But I see your point. Maybe annually is too often. Are there other vendors that have a comment here? We could also clearly try to, for this annual review, make it as least amount of burden as possible for just the retest. I think just a checkup, whether it's every year or every 2.5 years, I think is going to be valuable. Other vendors have comments about the periodicity, how often it should be done.
Hi, this is Robin from AMR. I like Samantha's idea much better than annually, like halfway through a new major upgrade. It would be a huge burden for us to test every year with 38 different sites or 38 different states and multiple versions happening all the time.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks for the comment. Others?
Okay, if anyone has any feedback that you didn't want to share here or you come up with later, feel free to send me an email. I can put my email in the chat. Like I said, I don't want to make this, a major burden for anyone. So definitely open to any ideas that anyone has. One of the reasons this idea came up is we actually have had some vendors in the past year approach us asking if circumstances had warranted them going through compliance again, or asking if they could send in some test cases and we could review them. So we did see a few people who were actually kind of looking at an unofficial recertification process. So it did help bring up this idea that maybe we need to look at it too. So thank you, Samantha, and everyone else for your comments. So I'm gonna go ahead and move along to the next item. I need to take the screen sharing, Julianne. Thank you. Let's see. All right. So this, so as we are working on the 3.5 revision, I'm working on creating all of the products that we had available for 3.4 for 3.5. And one of the things that I've come to is these APIs. So this is on the data dictionary page of the website. We have these EMS API and the demographic API. So I don't know how widely these are used. I'll go ahead and pull up what we have for 3.4. So the way this was created previously was with a piece of software that we no longer have. And so while we were investigating how to create this document for 3.5, I looked at a couple of other options. So what it just allows you to do is sort of click through the XSD in this more user-friendly HTML format. You can pick an element and it'll give you some more technical details than maybe what's included in the data dictionary. So my suggested replacement for this in 3.5 is a similar HTML document that was created using a different program. So I'll just click over to that. It's got the same sort of information. You can see the EMS data set. You can see all of the simple types, which are just the value choices. And then it has all the elements split up by what XSD they're in. So you can go to D agency and sort of see the same information. Here's D agency 01. Here's all the information as it appears in the XSD, information on the type. So my question to you would be, would this be an acceptable replacement for our old APIs?
Yeah, Laurel, this is Clay, and maybe another way to ask that question as well too is if some vendors have some direct relationships to the prior product. So any thoughts?
Hey, this is Josh. I know two ways that I've used this view or the previous view. One was if I'm looking for all of the locations where a particular data type is used, then that has been pretty handy. I can click on a particular data type and it'll list all the data elements that use that type. And then the other is sometimes looking for information about attributes on group elements. Attributes on standalone elements show up pretty well in the data dictionary, but attributes on group elements just don't really appear in the data dictionary. So I'll often, or sometimes come here to just look up some constraints on an attribute. So that first one of just looking at all of the elements that use a particular data type, I don't know if that's something you've played around with enough to see if, like if we choose one of the simple types, then would it show us elements that use that type?
Yeah, so I think if you pick
Yeah, those
like
ANSI
country
ones are
code,
good example because they're used by lots of elements.
let's see. I've clicked around in it a little bit and it seems pretty similar. But it doesn't look like it tells you which elements use a simple type.
Okay, so that would be one use case that I guess might be missing in this one that I've used.
Okay. And then groups was another.
Yeah, those will probably be supported here. Like if we go to custom elements, like a custom configuration, yeah, and then it has an attribute on it, like a custom element ID attribute.
There's a correlation.
Yeah, maybe go up to the custom configuration section.
There we go.
Yeah, okay.
It's all
Yeah,
broken
like
out.
there's the custom element ID attribute. I assume you can click on that to get details about the custom element ID, how it's defined. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah, so that
that's
seems to
supported.
work. Yeah, it's a little different. I haven't spent a ton of time clicking around in this, but it seems somewhat similar. Does anyone else have any other use cases that they have for this old API that we've used before?
Laurel, this is Clay again. I think the new attempt at documenting this is done in Oxygen. Is that correct?
Yeah.
It might be worth asking just among the vendors if they're using another product other than Oxygen to serve this purpose that they think we should look at.
Yeah, that's a good idea. If anyone has any other software that they're using for maybe doing this kind of thing with an XSD, happy to take any suggestions. Oh, here we go, Josh. So simple type ANSI state code used by elements, and then here's a list of all the elements.
Oh yeah, there we go. Okay.
So it is in there. It's just a little bit different. So I guess I won't dwell on this much longer. If anyone has any questions or suggestions or complaints, please feel free to email me or put them in the chat or speak up during the call. And we'll keep investigating whether this might be a replacement for the 340 API. And I guess I'll give everyone a chance. Does anyone have any comments on this? Okay, so moving on. Julianne, what was the next agenda item?
That would be your release of the draft version 3.5 data dictionary.
Oh, okay. Right. So next is the 350 data dictionary. And this is the last one where I'm talking. So you'll be done with me in just a couple of minutes. So I know we're all excited about 3.5. The candidate release is going to be out soon. We've put out the data dictionary, the almost completed data dictionary for everyone to review. So we have it in the web format as well as in the PDF. And you can open it up and it looks a lot like the 340 data dictionary. I'm just going to quickly go over some of the bigger changes. This is the April 3rd version. It's April 10th and we're moving quickly and have already made changes from this. We've updated the overview page to include some new information about how things have changed. We've added StateDataSet to the data dictionary now, so you'll see all 3 data sets. The StateDataSet will be mandatory in 3.5. And then you can see all the sections starting with the EMS data set and then all the way down to state. The state data set is now, all the elements have been renamed and renumbered to sort of belong to their own distinct data set. For example, S facility replaces D facility. The elements are almost entirely the same. They just have a slightly different name. So for example, if you look at type of facility, S facility 01, it's the same type of facility in the demographic file with the same choices. I actually believe we've added a few new choices in version 3.5. So, feel free to click through this and take a look. If you find a typo, I'm so sorry. Let me know and I'll correct it. I've been working very hard to make sure that we have the best data dictionary we could have, and I'm happy to finally be able to share our draft with everyone. And I think that's everything. Clay?
Yeah, thanks, Laurel. Laurel has been working incredibly hard to make all the suggested revisions associated with version 3.5. And of course, could you just go back, Laurel, just real quickly, if folks work through and they want to look at the trail that led to this change, could you just go back on the website and show folks where they could go to actually view the JIRA, right? So if you go back to...
So from the NEMSIS website, we just have this big follow the 3.5 revision here link. That's where you're going to find all of this information. And then under this what button, you'll find a link to the JIRA project at the bottom, which is where you can see sort of all of our internal comments as we move through these items. So most everything is now enclosed, which means that we've completed, reviewed it, and checked it off, and it's ready to go. So if you look at, for example, here's state data set, changes to D facility 12. You can click into that and see the JIRA issue where all of those changes were detailed, and then you can see all the work that we went through to make that happen.
Yeah, thanks, Laurel. And if anybody wanted to go even back farther and look at the initial request, that's on that same page on an Excel spreadsheet. And then if anybody wanted to look at the voting that happened during 2017-18, those are indicated there with the individual revision reviews in batch 1 through 4. So, or batch 1 through 3 plus the late breakers is in batch 4. So feel free to look through this. We're looking for any kind of problems you see with it. As Laurel mentioned, misspellings or something that doesn't make sense or doesn't jive with your initial request for change that was approved. Please particularly look at those and make sure that we've captured your request and then kind of the discussion that happened in the many reviews that we did. Just ensuring that the changes as you expected to see. So please feel free to dig into that. I know that folks have talked to us a little bit about one of the next things they'd like to see in regards to kind of a layman's usable document associated with revision is a change log, and we're working on that, as well as just providing out the candidate release for the vendors to be able to look at as well. So we're making progress, and we'll clearly make our deadline of having this all available by May, and we'll try to have it available before the May NEMSIS meeting. So if there is any discussion folks want to have about the candidate release there, or the candidate release, we can begin that conversation there.
I can provide a little update on the changelog too, Clay. So I've been working on that, and it is 60 pages, and I'm about halfway done. So in layman's terms, we will have a complete changelog, and it will be very lengthy because we have made a lot of revisions in the move. But I think that they're all really good revisions, and that it's going to make the standard much stronger.
Yeah, also and related to that, so thank you for sharing that, Laurel. The other thing I'll just mention is Julianne is working on some short videos that will just highlight the important changes that are included in those 60 pages, right? So there's a fair number of those 60 pages that are updating broken links or correcting the spellings, things like that. Julianne is providing some short videos. One that talk about how this revision will be able to improve our experience for our providers by reducing the number of national elements, by clarifying, elements that included several ideas in one element was hard to address. So we'll be trying to make some short videos that would allow you to summarize quickly for your stakeholders what changes are really important and kind of stand out with version 3.5. All right, any other questions about these available 3.5.0 draft products? Maybe one more thing you can highlight just quickly, Laurel. Also on that page where we have the draft products for 3.5.0, you'll remember last time on the call we talked about the fact that we've listed there the schematron rules, the business rules that will be associated with the state data set, demographic data set, and the EMS data set. The programmatic language isn't there, but the messages that your providers will see and kind of the logic behind each of the business rules are listed there. So these business rules will correct some of the business rules now that are a little too strict, some associated with e-disposition. They're atomic, right? So where before we had patterns of rules, all the rules have now been made singular, and so it should make it easier for our providers to know, for example, which time may be incorrect. So I think there's some great work here that Josh has done that will simplify our providers' ability to look for maybe, something that they fat fingered and they just have to correct. I think it'll be much easier for them to look for those types of issues. So those are there as well. We'd love to have those reviewed as well, and so that folks feel like the language being used is appropriate, that providers will understand what's being asked of them in regards to checking data, all those type of things. Thanks, Laurel.
And Clay, that brings us straight into my question. You just set that up perfectly. So when we're looking at e-times and the documentation for dispatch time and dispatch delay, I've got a question for the vendors. How are you adding that PSAP data to your product? Do you have interface directly with your PSAP? How are you filling out those fields in your PCRs for dispatch time, dispatch delay, those types of things?
Yeah, would a vendor be willing to kind of speak up? It could clearly be that it's just over voice conversation between the provider and PSAP. Are folks using that primarily to populate the PSAP elements?
Has anyone noticed how that data is recorded in the PCR in the field? Are your providers just putting it in as far as when they think dispatch was notified, or what they think a dispatch delay would have been based upon their response or transport or scene delays?
This is Chuck from Wisconsin. During my trainings last year across the state in talking with some of our participants that put that information in, some of them already have it set as a default that did not apply, and then would only go and change it if in fact there was a delay. In most cases, in some of the smaller areas, there isn't much of a call for delay, but and most of them are hand entering it in. We only have a few services that are actually doing computer-aided dispatch directly from their PSAPs.
Okay, so that computer-aided dispatch interface isn't common with all of the vendors. Are any of the other vendors experiencing that, or do you facilitate that?
This is Samantha with ESO. We have a set of agencies that do use computer-aided dispatch, and then that interface will automatically bring in all of the times from there. But not every one of our agencies does, but we definitely offer both.
Excellent. And that's exactly what I needed to know, because as I'm looking through, filtering through data elements and variables in the cube, trying to pull up some of those measures, I just wanted to verify with the vendors how that data is being populated so that we understand those dispatch time, dispatch delays are accurate, or if they're just default or hand entered by the provider. So Chuck and Samantha, I really appreciate your feedback on that. That's very helpful. Clay, web location of draft 3.5 products. You want me to send the screen over to you?
I'll tell you what, Julianne, I think that Laurel did a great job of showing where you can find those things. So I think that's covered well. I think we can go right to Bridget.
Quick question. This is Juan with Florida.
Yeah, Juan.
Will the business rules ever be incorporated into the data dictionary, the web interface? So this way we don't have to look at them for two separate locations?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't mean to speak for Laurel. Laurel's been working hard on that. Go ahead, Laurel. Sorry.
Actually, Josh Legler's been working on implementing that. But I believe it's still in progress. I'm going to let Josh talk about it, though, because he's the one doing the work.
Yeah, most of the work for integrating the business rules into the data dictionary has been done at this point. Of course, the new 350 business rules themselves have not been coded in schematron format yet. So as soon as those rules have been coded, then we'll activate that integration that has been, at this point, designed. And once that's done, then probably in a draft build of the data dictionary, but certainly no later than the candidate release, you'll see a list of associated validation rules at the bottom of the page of every data element that has rules associated with it.
Cool, thanks.
Are there any other questions on that topic? Hearing none, let's turn it over to Bridget.
Julianne, I'm going to steal your screen from you really
All
quick.
right, steal away.
Okay, so we are almost there, getting ready for this implementation meeting that we're going to do. Up on the banner, we have the information that we have. We have a rough draft right now of the agenda for you guys. So if you just click on that banner, go through. We do have it booked right now for August 12th and 13th. Still same place up at the Silver Baron Lodges back up in Park City. We're waiting for the final portion of the contract to be finalized for us. Hopefully within the next couple of weeks, we're going to get the registration page set up for you guys so you guys can get registered, get everything taken care of for your travel, because I know you guys want to get that taken care of and done. If you just click in here, we're going to have that rough draft right now. We're still finalizing quite a bit of it, but it does give you kind of like an idea as to where we're going to kind of be going with it. I know Clay is going to be working really hard as far as trying to get the sessions and stuff like that given over and taken care of. And then we're going to have the social like we did last year, that Sunday when you guys all come in. If you have any questions about the meeting right now?
Yeah, this is Clay. Just maybe one more quick thought here. We wanted to get this agenda out early for those within states that need to get their travel approved. Often an agenda for a meeting is required for that approval. So wanted to get something up quickly so that folks could utilize that. And as we nail down sessions that we'll hold during the day and a half, we'll update this on a regular basis. But this should be a good overview of the meeting to begin travel plans.
All right, as soon as that registration page is up, I will let you guys know. I think we can just put it in the Google group. Is that right, Clay?
Yeah, for sure. And we'll probably send it out on the DMC listserv as well.
Perfect. All right, Julianne, you can take it back.
All right, are there any questions for Bridget on that meeting? Awesome. Okay, I'm going to show you where you can find some of the CUBE training videos. If you go to the NEMSIS.org main page and then go get into the Data Cube, come down a little ways and you've got 5 videos at this point available to you or even to the front user. So the idea behind this primer series is a very basic how to access the cube, how to build a simple report, clarifying the data elements, designing a simple graph, exporting your data. Very basic. Most of you will be far experienced in what these cover, but especially if you have new agencies or new staff, new providers that want to see how all of this data that we're collecting is usable to the public. So you've got this list of 5 here, and we'll continue to add to those. These will open directly into YouTube, and you'll be able to access that video in a new tab. You can also go to the NEMSIS TAC YouTube channel, and it'll list the videos, all the videos that we have uploaded. And you can also go to playlists, and playlists will show you your options on the EMS Data Cube Primer series, the V3 implementation calls, public monthly trainings, and then the monthly state trainings on those playlists. So these are available for you to use or send or link to as you're learning how to use the cube or as you're teaching somebody new how to use the cube. They're just very simple step-by-step and short videos on being able to access that data. Are there any questions on this primer series, and anything else that is of specific interest in learning when you very first started using the cube? Was there something that was more of a struggle than something else that we can add to this series? As you can see, they're all short videos, but if there's something else that you guys feel like would be useful, maybe even one on filtering. I think filtering and breaking down some of those large lists of variables would be helpful too. So I think we might see that one in the near future as well.
Yeah, Julianne, this is Clay. I'll just add a little bit. Great discussion of that work that you've done. Thank you very much. I think if you could go back to the web page, just where you access the cube, I'll just mention to folks that what you see there right now is the NEMSIS access to the NEMSIS public cube. So that cube is out. It's still in a bit of a beta form, right? So we just welcome folks being able to look at this public cube and provide us back comments. Currently, there's about, I think it's 31 million records in the public cube. It goes from 2017 to 2019. So remember, that's the other real advantage of moving to version 3 is the data is real timely. So I was in this cube last night, and the latest data there is as of April 3rd. So the data is always just about a week old, right? So this is a great tool for requests you get at the state or at the vendor level. You know, how can I view NEMSIS data? I've got an idea. I want to kind of just brainstorm a little bit or look at sample size for a strange thing like electrocutions or cardiac arrest among kids or things like that. This is a great way to kind of direct those people to use the cube to look for those at those type of questions. There's a lot of flexibility here, and Julianne's provided some great trainings that will help you be able to use that data as best possible. There's just tons of things that can be done with that data.
Any questions or comments? Thank you so much, Clay, for bringing up that this is the public access cube.
Oh yeah, and I forgot to also mention, thank you, Julianne, you reminded me as well. I wanted to let the states know that the state-specific cube, we plan to have that out in May at the latest. So we're close to finishing the state specific cube. Remember, we've completely separated the two cubes as of about a year and a half ago. So we're working on ensuring that the passwords and usernames are all correctly applied for either federal users, state users, vendor users, and so we'll have that out in the next 2 or 3 weeks to allow that to be out in beta form, and we will improve the quality of both of these moving forward, probably through the summer, just cleaning out some things that people are providing us as great comments as they're working with those tools.
Thank you, Clay. Are there any other questions, concerns, issues? This is your opportunity to bring up anything that is of concern to the NEMSIS TAC staff. All right, hearing nothing super pressing, our next call will be April 24th. Same time, same place. You'll get an email reminder about that. If there are issues or concerns that you want addressed on these calls, please feel free to reach out to any of us at the TAC. All of our contact information is on the support page of the nemsis.org website, and most of you have direct contact to one or more of us at the TAC anyway. So we appreciate your time and your participation, and we look forward to talking to you April 24th. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.